in addition to the other resources you have going on, I do want to bring up one of the blog posts, because you do blog fairly regularly. You find time to do that. And the specific one on posture, I wrote this down. It says, good posture is not rigid. It is not a single position to be in at all times. It's relaxed, it's variable, or it's varied. It flows. It depends on the context. Could you just talk to people about what that means? Because I think there's a lot of fallacies about posture, and I would love for you to talk about it.
Yeah, this has been something I think about a lot. When I started writing every day as a habit about 5 years ago, I was really worried my posture was going to deteriorate. And, I also refused to listen to any of the, powers that be of what good posture is, because it just like, oh, that feels awful. Like I have to keep everything at 90 degrees and be that rigid, that I'm so focused on posture, whatever I'm writing turns to crap. So I threw that out and guess what? I've been writing every day for several hours for 5 years. My posture is fine. It has to do more with what people do the rest of the day. And I think I don't think people would disagree that a more variable human is a better human. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would agree with that. And when we believe there's one posture to rule them all, we put ourselves at a disservice. And it's very narrow thinking. For instance, everybody who's listening can do this. You could pinch your shoulder blades together because that's a posture that we sell to everybody, and thinking that that's where shoulder blades belong. Well, what does that do to your spine? What does that do to your rib cage? What does that do to your organs underneath? What does it do to your diaphragm? How does it affect your breathing? All of those pretty much go awry because you've brought your shoulder blades together. There is a displacement. You bring your shoulder blades back, your chest has no choice but to go forward. Your sternoclavicular joints are now exposed instead of going into your sternum. And that is the only bony joint connecting your arms to your body. So good luck with that losing its integrity. With some of the contact athletes that I've worked with, they've had a history of, say, Pilates. And I asked them to, not that all Pilates movements are bad, but one of the common things is to brace your core, to suck in your stomach. And it could be whatever term you want, but I have them do that, and then I have them try to push me over, and they bounce off of me. Granted, I am larger than average human, but then I have them fill out their stomach, that it's more cylindrical, or even relax their stomach, and suddenly they have a leg to stand on. They don't fall over. There is one research article that does say that people who brace their core or suck in their stomach do bend their legs worse. I had one athlete who was in a gym who was trying to brace his core with 225 on his back, and I'm just thinking, I think your core is just going to turn to mush because you didn't turn it on beforehand. You've got 225 on your back. Your shit's going to work. Maybe your position is wrong, but muscles are gonna brace, if you will, automatically. Yeah, that's the gist on posture. I would rather people be comfortable and be able to sustain many different positions for long periods of time, or maybe not long periods of time, but they should be able to sustain and hold a highly varied amount of positions.
When I was reading through that post, it reminded me of one of the times, I've have a likely torn labrum in my left shoulder, and I remember one of the times, maybe it was just for something else. I don't remember. I've done so much PT, but I remember I had the kinesio tape taped to get me into that posture, and throughout several hours, I remember how uncomfortable and honestly borderline painful. Everybody says this, but I have a fairly high threshold for pain, but I was this sucks. So it made me think about some of that, the fallacies that are perpetuated in that environment. And I think what really helped drive home the message was two things. Was you put an example, a case study of yourself and then of your athlete in there, who was, I believe, a model and athlete. So I thought that was really helpful to kind of drive the point home. And you were switching positions, I think, all the time, right? And that video that you posted, would you suggest just varying it up, as simple as that, like what feels comfortable, and then change it up every now and then?
Yeah, so we can kind of tie a bunch of things together. If we want to talk about constraints, like have a big ass chair. Like I bought a office chair for big and tall people. Granted, I am 6'4", but like it allows me to move around within the chair. It allows me to be comfortable. Any of you have children or just watch children sitting at a table or a desk, like the chair is massive relative to them. They can be in different positions. So like as much as possible, move around. Don't just sit there. I get up often and move around. Like if I'm in the zone, I don't even realize it. And if I just go, but like if I'm at a still point, like I'll get up and go wash some dishes, or I'll go hang in between my doorway. I might move to the ground for a little bit, or just like, big cat stretch, like contract some muscles, move around, try to move my ribs and shoulders in different positions, and then get back to work. I think the problem is stagnancy. Like everything that stays still usually dies.
And that ties
Movement
it back.
Is essential.
Yeah, that ties it back to what we said earlier in the podcast about, just moving around, right? We talked about, I think you referenced a dog, just getting up and moving. It may not be a lot, but that kind of ties it back into that. With that, I have one more question on this particular topic, but with the, you mentioned about heart rate variability, and which was like, I was like, oh shit, like that's, I haven't thought about it in those terms, but it makes sense. Can you talk a little bit about the connection between like breath and posture and, that constant core contraction that your athlete had at the time?
Heart rate variability is a very complex topic, and we're still figuring it out. From a purely mechanical point of view, your heart beats, the variability of your heart's beat will change based on the pressure surrounding your heart. It is noticed by something called baroreceptors, which is a pressure sensor. When you inhale, your lungs get bigger, squeeze at your heart, your baroreceptors notice that. But also just a like liquid dynamics, physics. When liquids get compressed in valves, they speed up, the fluid moves faster. So your heartbeat increases. If everybody just hyperventilates right now, they're spending more time with an inhalation or pressurized heart. So your heart rate will go up because of pressure. You start having longer exhales or full exhales, and the pressure is relieved from your heart, and the heart rate will drop. It'll plummet if you're really good at it. So now we have this mechanics of a heart's beat, which is driven by the lungs. The lungs will change by the diaphragm's vertical oscillation, how much it travels. Now, if you're constantly thinking belly button to spine, your diaphragm is going to be limited in how much it can move. And you're also going to be squeezing your organs all day long. And I don't think that they like that. What does that do to your organs? Well, it pushes them up into your diaphragm, into your pelvic floor. Again, another resistance for the diaphragm to push against. So now you're going about living your life, and your diaphragm can't move as much. So your lungs don't empty as well. They don't fill, and they don't empty as well there. And so you're breathing more frequently. A more frequent breath is going to relate to a smaller heart rate variability. And what we know about HRV is in general, bigger ones are better, or at least relative to you. When your HRV goes down because your Whoop or Aura Band or Aura Ring or whatever says so, generally you're less recovered. When it bounces back up to your relative high, you're more recovered. And a lot of that can be driven by your breath and your diaphragm, both of which are directly affected by whether or not you brace your core all day long.
Well, that's super interesting, and thank you for going into that. I mean, we could do a whole episode on just that, and I think it's an interesting topic, and it kind of ties back in again, variability, right? Heart rate variability, positional variability, postural variability.
Yeah, there is pretty much nothing on earth that I can think of that prefers more monotony. Everything is better with variability from a genetic standpoint. Like, yeah, incest is bad for so many reasons, but gut microbiome diversity is better. That leads to better mood, better sleep, sometimes even better reaction time. More variable movement, usually better. More abilities to go around defenders. Yeah, you're probably going to get paid more. More abilities to think differently or speak differently and adapt your thoughts or language to different needs. Yeah, you're probably going to be better off than somebody who can only think and speak one way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of. That's been the thread that's kind of, I think, tied most of this podcast, this conversation together. I could obviously keep talking about this stuff with you for a long time, and so many interesting topics that you're doing, and so many interesting things that you're doing. What would you suggest where people can find you? Where do they find more information about the course, or if they just want to get in touch with you and talk about what you're doing? Where do people go to get in touch with Austin?
Right. Let me get that. I have one more note. Like, I don't want to come across as this guy who just loves chaos. Like, you can have too much variability, for sure. I mean, that can be a pathology. But on the other side of things is like mundanity, or like trusting the process too much where you don't change anything. There is, let's just say, a sweet spot of variability. As for where people could find me, right now I'm taking somewhat of a break from social media, but you can find me on Instagram at apiros.team, APIROS.team. You can also just email me at austin@apiros.team. Just bear with me. I get a lot of messages, so might not respond as quickly as most people do. You can find out more about Apiros at the website, which is www.apiros.team. And then as for all things Evolved Coach or Evolved Coaching, in-person courses, online courses, and the book, that can all be found at theevolvedcoach.com.
And I will link to all of that in the show notes. Austin, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate your intellect. I appreciate your transparency, and just the way you view the world, I think is unique. And I think more people can not necessarily follow the same path, but can kind of look at it a little bit differently. And I think it's led to, your career growing, and it's fun to see. And it's been great having you on.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the invite. It's been great to chat with you.